Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Altar Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said of the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Sharadvatiputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of a lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely and abide by a means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Sharad Bhattiputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Lama Dong Gobo Jizen Jambe Yanglo Xiangzi Lo Kangye Lo Zhu Zhenyi Zhen Zhenyi Da Na Da Rao Se Yue Zhenyi Du Gun Zhi Zhen Zi Shi Nyen Zhi Du Ga Ne Bon Zin Ka Da Si Zi Ra Ma Ri Mi Do Du Gun Zhi Zi Bi 若作根阿不接大自养老主角养的松，若多接触节目节罗列接家住主自己，马里名字多看就过几年就在这着呢。 天天大街上街大街有的人，就是都有过。 就着就到就年节，大律面色加倍养老的，阿拉巴扎那的，阿拉巴扎那的，阿拉巴扎那的，这点就这钱绕月子就。 大律的莫名法着些年，高当的就上路多把一，落着不别能，这多所所是的就，小也就也就也多，找也人。 偏说给的些为真灭果， 月诸月热我公月松，满月歇家之间随别度，下至作我的那所我的，突厥前部的些多觉长，求界的罗波多那罗波，别就周别波多阿的下，雅里新罗居罗所我的。上波图灭业界能者的，出的地狱的道着别别，各藏各萨能念苏念华，要见须别之拉所瓦的，要人越灭修结了着道，道瓦着波这别各就见。三界各教婆婆要塞所，萨婆大月界那所瓦的，西卓大别穷阿的上，嘎当天别面波中真界，念就那些过去所那所，嘎当阿玛那那所瓦的，看见心的世界从阿。我到这边我修结草结，当天边到不开住结，要是就把这那说的，叫我更多要到那么多，这边去这边了弄时间，啥到那就有点说做的。多久常给过波念多数，让就所罗跟大耶米，我重读，让就所罗跟那大耶米，给上他把这边用求，这边这边他给这把耶。甚至新年当那所我的，借我更多养到那么多，这面确实别了龙学经，撒当那就有点绕做的，多久常给个有多一说上节就当做节就能了，那就把多多的叫做节。大概这别错那节，绕了平时上节主播修上节就做节就能了，想就把多多的叫做节。大概这别错那节，绕了平时上节主播修上节就。所见就能了，想就把多多呢就是见，那个去这边做那些，罗罗平时上街主播修。哎呀，哎呀，看看这样。你告诉宝宝，你去前年写的，前年也写吧，年也要没够印象的，他去宝宝的写，要不你也你看着结果来是呢，你多么给我结果来写的，当然说，就当然了，他叫我什么片就是小我记住个人呢，你做三个点的如果印象呢，你三个点的如当看着来写的，他给我同能做他记住啊。你给我有一下。
Unmute, okay.
你给我口的。
Tare kete sikte zar jede sev shara gomendo tare.
Ale.
Ejen de tagin ne kon de ne karen ngai ditaji che pejen ara ipe mendo son son redo. Tagin ngai ke che 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 de. Ye computer development of policy.
Nghe ta đi nghe comment na de yo de ani ngaso de ko so bo chu chen che se de ani ta cho shim che do bala ani nang sen ge de do go yin za ne ani sen ge de do bala ani sen ge de ta ti kan de che go se de ro.
So, as we are receiving the teachings of the Dharma, and it is generally important for the both teacher who is giving the teaching or the teachings must cultivate appropriate motivations to receive the teachings of the Dharma and as well as to grant the teachings of the Dharma. So our purpose here to important to remember the purpose of receiving the teachings is to benefit our, not only just to benefit our present life, but rather we must dedicate our practice and purpose of receiving the teachings towards one's own future life. So therefore, in order to dedicate and benefit one's future life, must be done on the basis of transforming of one's own mind.
Entonces, tanga leka kare cheso na chile tene cheguro, so chigwa che chichimare, leka kanga de yinzane. Tene chego yinzane, tanga su koso po kala tene chegure sana, ya choyula tene chegure, masa chila tene chegure. Right?
So now, here, whenever we engage in any kind of activities, our engagement of activities must be done on the basis of relying upon other factors. Without relying upon other factors, there's no such activities that can be taken independently. In the same manner, at this point, we are receiving the teachings of the Dharma, so we must do so by relying upon our teachers, Buddha, as the object of our refuge. We must rely upon him with great faith. Similarly, one must have a compassion towards other sentient beings, all other sentient beings. So therefore, once receiving of the teachings and making the purpose of our teachings, receiving of these teachings must be done on the basis of, in other words, relying upon the object of refuge as well as relying upon other sentient beings.
Ya sunjala ya kasa choyila tene chetan cheda, ma sunjala mibi chetan yende, ya choy mibi yene tepa, ma sunjala mibi jinji ni yonto la, yene nga tsuki minang chene, te tsuchi sambate, karang lalo ne, yene kari chagudu chita, yene tenye dan dewa chagudu mudu chita ne, te yonto richi tenda la, yene nga tsuki yide la, kang yonyo chi minang chegi yinda.
So, in order to cultivate appropriate motivations, let's take several minutes to meditate on by visualizing Buddha in front of oneself and cultivating a faith towards Buddha. And similarly, one must cultivate a compassion and extend your compassion towards all other sentient beings, and try to cultivate these two, one faith towards Buddha and one compassion towards all other sentient beings. Now try to cultivate those two, set of motivations within oneself as clear as possible. Let's take us, several minutes to cultivate such motivations.
아야, 가가서 내가 кино 제바 제자가네. 간세바 샤이체. 아니, 다 사손주 좀 상초랑지는 바스. 아니, 대유고는 아주 거서고 체내 제바체.
Having cultivated appropriate motivations, one is then now will reach at the point of receiving the teachings of the Dharma. And the particular Dharma teachings that we're receiving today is the lamp for 3 worlds, the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment.
제세 가르사는 가서 소단다 가서기 세리데 마리비 메비 메바동을 치도아이잖아 마리지 메바소와라 아니 투비메데 파고레 투비 데메데 가르 파고레잖아 아니 랑냥레 제림바기 전다데 투고아이잖아 아니 고 데메세 라샤나 메데 베숨바 제시제 데보 슈지여서.
So why it is called the lamp for the 3 worlds in terms of the subject matter of the teachings, the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, is because at the moment our mind is completely polluted by ignorance. In other words, the darkness of ignorance, polluted by darkness of ignorance. So now, how can we just overcome or remove the darkness of ignorance? Is by lighting up the lamp of receiving the teachings or hearing the teachings of the Dhamma, which enables one to engage in the practice to illuminate one's clear mind.
됐지. 아니, 된저 영화서 세비 최대 토마 아니 토마 때문에 단다 가리잖아 송바 열에서 좋아 그게 제소나 아니 다 랑츠비 랑시 선제 타지 때도 되어유비 데들 송시지 로아때부 투비어베 토마.
So now, why Buddha has given such teachings in the beginning? What is the purpose Buddha had given such immaculate teachings? Is to now, the purpose of Buddha's teaching is to achieve lasting happiness in the Deva, which is the lasting happiness for oneself and others.
대저기 때때 되어주게 최대 가서 토마 아니 더바 투명 뭐 아니 바도 아니 자와 변주 아니 타마 배저 로자와다 아니 대저기 아니 포지체 아니 도데나 아니 랑게 제자요 바 라미 바데 랑게 냥레체네 아니 냥토네 주비 취지 아니 가서 데릴 것을 봐봐 진행 제와체.
So such teachings which enables to establish oneself and all other that of all other sentient beings to the state of lasting happiness is given by Buddha, and later the teachings have been undertaken a rigorous practice of Buddha's followers, such as great Indian masters or the Pandits. And then finally, those the precious teachings were translated in Tibetan by the great Tibetan translators and transmitted all the way to the lineage gurus till one's own, root teacher or the root gurus. So this is the teaching that we are receiving today, is the teachings that are received by the great beings in the past and practiced and gained as spiritual realizations. It is through their own experiences of spiritual realizations. It is then transmitted to the followers, the future followers.
teach. The church was on any Jebotan Mayba, Saint David, Tozo in Zane, Lad Long David, Chawa again. And it Dohani Janet touched in any Jason Suzobe Chawa. And she that judge the Samuel Lange, Vanilla Kebe Sana, Ludu Tomenji, and Jonla Kebe. And Lamani Janga Jemba says on a bit of a switching, Jajakuru Kuala you did.
So here now, if you look at the subject matter of the text, the particular text that we are studying and or receiving the teachings on, is so convenient to practice. In other words, to tame one's mind. It is given such a precise and lucid explanation of how to tame one's mind by elucidating the explanation of both sutta and tantra, as well as the vast practice and the profound views of the teachings of the vast practice and profound view by such as great Indian masters of Nagarujunas and Asanga.
당아서 카투 도샤이나 치와니데 로사체 아니 되게 치와니데 데베 촐레니 시체베세데니 다나가서 거서 봐봐 아니 교노 줘바네 해서네 대다 팀비 고아데 뒤진데 소소를 여바지 제제 사제 숨바데
So now with this explanation that explanations actually covers the two outlines, the major outlines of the Lam Rim Chenmo, first and second outlines. And then now we will begin with the third outlines, the greatness of enabling one to know that all teachings are free from contradictions and so forth.
Lama Chita Jabala Sai Sajini, Nishibache, the Lanchasawa Senior Debits, the ten Locheta, but taking Yasu Uzu, the church of Logo, Channel to Lord, the Derona Jaward.
So then this will then be followed by the next, outlines, the greatness of the enabling one to understand that of the scriptures are the instructions for practice, and then the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions, how to rely on the teacher, which is the root of the path, and how the students train their minds after having relied on a spiritual teacher.
Aya, Tangi Logan, Tadamango Lama Cheta Jambala Jiche. Maria Casa Niche, Lanchasawa Senior Debits, the ten Locheta Jambala Niche, Pompodisa. Da tena locheta jere bala nire la te tena jimbo ne bishi ku da jimbo cheta ne bi tsuni da jimbo cheta ne bi tsu de la yang nire la ji na ja le ba je ba ne jimbo ne se ngore da tombo jitsa da jimbo ne se ngore la so re jibo chunga na temo na jere ba jang so ne se jibo je da temo ne ba na le je ba jang so ne se jibo chimbe la jere ba jang so ne se je da nga zo so ba Juba Champion Langer by Johnson and Citadel, say Sonre, teaching on Juba Saint Gonzo, said it to touch you, sent in a Shobala Lord Siri. That end on the Tombosa. That sent it to touch you to say such as Jerry, Jokana Tenechawa, and it's Saint Jean Biremba, and then Chogas, Jibi say Chogazon, and then I say such as Jaba, and it's Saint Zitala. And this sent Choga Zutala, Mataba Shibito, Toba Manyamba Soma, Yamba Shijoba, say, and then Yamba Shijoba, Mataba Toba Shibito, Niba, Toba Manyamba Soma, say it. Damazo, Shanchu, Saint Ola, such as Jaba, and Shanchu sang Chogas on CSA, Timon, there, Lorochida.
So we are now on the chapter of training one's mind, or how to develop bodhicitta, cultivation of the bodhicitta, under the headings of how to adopt the spirit of enlightenment through its ritual. And this is then be followed by the 3 subheadings of, that which have the bodhicittas that would have not been attained must be attained, which has already been attained must have then undergo degenerations, must be restored and revitalized, and which has preserved and intact with your bodhisattva's vow, would enhance and develop furthermore.
대체 다가도 담바 간데 지셔나이네 담바 대체다 교통체 터버 시제바지 에네 터버 뭐냐 봐서 뭐냐 봐 시제 봐서인데 담바 송가 예 자이 사지게 나타레살라다.
So what regardless of what kind of vows or the precepts that one may receive, there are 3 common factors. Regardless of what kind of precept that one may receive, either one received the Pratimoksha vow or individual liberation precept, or the Bodhisattva's precept, or the Tantric sacred Mantrayana precepts, which is first that you haven't received, must receiving, there's involvement of receiving, and once you have received, it's preserving, letting not, just vows or the precepts undergo degenerations, and not only the preserve, but how to develop and develop furthermore, or the flourished.
대체 다만이 저 사제제 로버가 이제 거대 보시고래 동보 담발레시게 유 간데 제거래 랭에 강사라니 차진 가르 자거래 렘비 초가 가르 제데 니 동보대로 마토버 토버시비 토세.
So here now, when speaking about the bodhisattva's vow that has not been received, and how one can receive if one hadn't received this bodhisattva's vow, it's first one need to make sure to rely upon a master who is qualified to actually to grant this precepts of the bodhisattvas, such as the person before whom, in other words, the person before whom you adopt the spirit of enlightenment must be examined. And then at the same time, the person who adopts the spirit of enlightenment must examine as well to making sure that you have this, you meet this criteria of receiving the bodhisattva's vows.
대체 다가서 사제 거서 보고 사제님 받은 거는 뭐 주상이다. 터버 뭐냐 봐 손바 생에데 렌스 카싱에데 마스 로사이다. 다데 대고주 대가랑 고주 사제 렌스는 로 도되어도. 니바 터버 뭐냐 봐 손바라 로자 셰고바데 셰바 샤오송 데라 인생에 되는 고주이다.
That's all.
야 테스트 베로지.
That's all. So training in the precept that causes you not to weaken your spirit of enlightenment in this lifetime. So which has the headings, the training in the precept cause you not to weaken your spirit of enlightenment in this lifetime, and the training in the precepts that cause you to not to separate from you spirit of enlightenment in the future lifetime as well.
대체 내가 니체 세대 세제 뭐냐비 졸라로바다 저와제도 대다 면저와 면제비 졸라로바 오서 대다 사진 도디 고대버지 니도.
So the training in the precept that cause you not to weaken your spirit of enlightenment in this lifetime is the first, first part, and the second part is training in the precept that cause you to not separate yourself from your spirit of enlightenment in the future lifetime as well.
내가 저 시가 가르서는 내가 소하게 담바듯이 나 지시 조이 받으래 상추 생기 담바인데 상추 마타지 바인자네 아니 소타게 담바데는 세델라 손토네 되고 저하시면 벤자 타니요 말와 또 상추 생기 담바데나 상추 마타지 바인자 세데 아니 상추 이제 세마냐베 저 간데질라 로고래 아니 저하시면 벤자라니 상추 세마냐베 저 간데 로고래 세 고데고도와.
So now this bodhisattva's vow, the precepts is unlike the precepts of individual liberation, so the Sotaikitoma or the Pratimoksha, because so far as the precepts of Pratimoksha is concerned, or this individual liberation precept is concerned, it is only for one's this lifetime. You just receive the precepts, and it will remain. So once you are transited yourself from this world, and this precept will no longer will with you. So the bodhisattva's vows or the bodhisattva's precepts is when we are receiving the precepts, it's just may I receive the bodhisattva's vow until I gain the state of complete enlightenment. So therefore, not only this lifetime also, but also the future life. So therefore, you see the training in the precept that cause you not to weaken your spirit of enlightenment this lifetime, and the training in the precept that cause you to not to separate from your spirit of enlightenment in the future lifetimes.
그치. 다 로인다. 다 동벌에 지지. 세제로 조슈 피비 시도 표현 점발로 로바 당. 세제 뭐 피비 시도 레 시도 레주의 점발로 로바 당. 강게 된데 세제 비 세제 로모바 당. 선나도 예시지 소사발로 로바 동벌에 소도.
So now, let's read through the text, Lam Rim text, page 70, beginning from the second paragraph, which is the training in the precept that cause you not to weaken your spirit of enlightenment in this lifetime. The lifetime has four parts here. The training in the precepts to recall the benefits of the spirit of enlightenment in order to strength of your your enthusiasm for it. The training in the precept to generate the spirit of enlightenment 6 times each day in order to increase the actual spirit of enlightenment. The training in the precept not to mentally abandon the living beings for whose sake you develop the spirit of enlightenment. And the fourth, the training in the precepts to accumulate the collections of the miracles and sublime wisdom.
되지. 동보대가 저때 거대버로 유자라 간제에서는 유자라 때는 가보여서는 대답을 적으로 가보 잡을 때는 가보 용발 대에 대통으로 예전에 상주기 생에 대통은 삼발을 조슈래서나 아니 때는 가보 전에 유로만 야으로.
So here now, what it says here is now, first, it is important for one to, want to cultivate enthusiasm for, generating bodhicitta. In other words, by receiving the bodhisattva's vow and generating bodhicitta, because just like in our normal life, if you are enthusiastic of doing something or buying some kind of material gift or whatever, so long as you know that that gift or the object that you are going to buy is something that is really beneficial for you, then you'll have enthusiasm to get that particular object, right? And not then also, well, in order for you to develop such enthusiasm, you should know the quality of that particular object. By knowing the quality of the particular object, then you will have a greater enthusiasm for getting it. And having brought that particular object, then you will also try your best to preserve and take good care of it. Similarly, if you to generate bodhicitta, you should know the benefits and the qualities of the bodhicitta. That will enables you to boost your enthusiasm for cultivating bodhicitta.
다게 로게다 동보에서 도대 땅 라마라 녜데 상추지 세지 편당 셈바데 동보고발레 제바 손베 대다 시고신 델레장 가토베 상제지 최당제지 사베다보다 장추 셈비 쉬어바다 멜라 당치 뒤비 싫어 도템바 타부 손도 아테바데 칠로로치다.
So the training in the precepts to recall the benefits of the spirit of enlightenment in order to increase the strength of your enthusiasm for it. So think about the benefits of the spirit of enlightenment after you have entered and researched them in the sutra or listen to them from your guru, and they are explained and detailed in an area of Start Sutra. So look there, and as stated above, this text says the spirit of enlightenment is like a seed of the Buddha's qualities, and it is also stated that spirit of enlightenment is like a summary because it includes all the Bodhisattva's deeds and aspirational prayers.
Tingala ke karu songso sena ane phe de lama ta jong la de ne she go ye ji ane she go ba se ite jong se ji ji ane ona shang chu sen sen ka de sen sanje ji sa sen de da lo da sanje ji sa la ro ye ye de thang ji che ba she ye sa ba da ba de shang chu ye sen de da shang chu sen ye de song yo wo ro ane ni ba de la do te da ba de sen na so ye Jong Chenmo de Reshe Jodi, Lu Dote da Yala Jishi Seni Shevdi, Ta Dote no Chanso Du de Yon Soji, and Shanchu is Mare Yode, Sanje Salado, Yode Yosu Zobaye, and Dote over the Shanchu sent the race. Dote Tedo.
So it is a very, normally, when you actually receive the teachings, how to cultivate the bodhicitta. Here, as mentioned earlier, think about benefits of the spirit of enlightenment. After you have entered, researched in the sutras, or listen to them from your guru, right? One must listen to the qualified teachers. In other words, instructions must be received from qualified teachers, and because it says, listen to, it says that it is the spirit of enlightenment is like a seat of all the Buddha's quality. But it is all the Buddha's quality. So therefore, it is very essential for one to receive such teachings from qualified teachers and to practice. And this way, you will be able to understand the quality of the bodhicitta. Once you are able to understand the qualities of the bodhicitta, and it will enable you to understand the benefits of the cultivating bodhicitta, will increase your enthusiasm for engaging in practice of the bodhicitta as well.
Dote tabo ji she yang la je ba she ba la ta ye ba shi ye jang dote de tang che du be dote de dong da bu shan se je lang tang che ji ne du be dong se son so dong de son so do te ba de che lo sha ji da ye ta ji de je she ro je sa.
So here again, it is a summary in sense that everything is completed into the brief indication. Although there are endless detailed explain of the parts, like a summon of of a summation of these parts, it is said to be a synopsis which brings together the key points of all the Bodhisattva's path. The benefit mentioned in the Bodhisattva's level are those of the aspirational spirit of enlightenment. The text states two benefits for the first stable generation of the spirit of enlightenment: become a pure field for accumulating merits and being fully and with the protective merits.
Jitenhame chebe shasha juro she sombata senchema thane senche thanje je yones choba tang senchema thane dachamba danye chamba na chang rijogone senjene ba sombata lamma goma choba tang sana shawa chungi shechang jeba tayeba jebe sana ji shen jiten thanje tembe satabu she sombata chego na je pata dawa joro sondo joa was
So the first benefit, becoming a pure field for accumulating merits, is as follows: as engaging in the Bodhisattva's deed states, and are revered both in the worlds of the human and deities. You become the object of worship for all living beings immediately after you have developed the spirit of enlightenment. In accordance with this statement, that immediately after developing the spirit of enlightenment, you surpass all the great arhats in terms of your lineage. You become a superior and highest. Even when you perform a small meritorious actions, it gives forth limitless effects. So you are a field for accumulating merits. As all the worlds relies on you, you are like earth. Thus, you are like a father of all beings.
내가 저 거대 와 변나 하다 변나지 샤샤샤기 유조에 있잖아 아니 연내에서는 나 저기 소속이 경주 시사기 연 가르피에서는 필사기 줘봐래 소도 자주 생질라데 산주기 생제 체체라 네 가자데 아니 강가기 경주 시사기 유세나래 아니 연 필사기 유데 차와래 소도
So therefore it says now, one is revered both the worlds of the humans and deities. You become the object of worship. In other words, the worthy of worship, becoming a worthy of worship by both human and deities, human and God. In other words, because at the moment that you have generated such a precious mind, you surpasses the other arhats and so forth, right? And you become a superior than other lineages of arhats and so forth. So you become a worthy of revered, or the worthy of worshipped of deities and humans.
네 리지고는 저장바 생제는 거스디 만에다가 아주 초바자와이나 상주기 생 동보쟁에 달라 연대 잔의 상주사마도 개개요 말이 여러 저장부터서게 녀모 사베다 잡아 빠여로 되게 빠나야 코 리지고는 생제는 도거스디 변해자데 아주 제보기 리티에다 로게 되서게 아니 제세지 총화되다 아니 보고 제마타네 리지고는 보고 제 생제는 너바나예 샤추기 센체마타도 라니 제이세스 로아테나 아니 제다 아니 리지고네 센제나 로를 세데 베이고는 소여로.
So here now it says it states very clearly that in accordance with the statement, it says, right, in the text, that immediately after developing the spirit of enlightenment, you surfaces all the great arhats in terms of your lineage, in terms of your lineage. So now, so far as the actual, the quality, the spiritual quality is concerned, arhats, those by the arhats have abandoned their negativities or the delusions with their imprints, with their seeds, in other words. However, when it comes to the bodhisattva, it's just cultivated a bodhicitta at this moment. When it comes, well, in terms of its lineage, it is due to the lineage, it surfaces or the dominance other arhats, even though they have, abandoned all their negative, gross level of negativities with their imprints. Just like a king, when the prince, when the prince is given a birth, although the prince is not educated, it doesn't have any, he or she has no education and so forth. But when it comes to due to the lineage, it surfaces all other beings.
내가 저 샤추게 사질을 제 라마 고만지로 올라도 대전 가서 라마 세대지 자와도 고쇼소데 되게 지 천지 제대야 다다나 되고도 라마 세대에 대해서는 뭐지 제거도 샤추세 라질을 제 천지라 콜라마 차로도 고마 차로도
So now, normally we have we use a term lama towards one's teachers and so forth. However, when speaking about the lama, lama should be addressed towards someone whose quality is who gain an unsurpassable quality, in other words. So thus here now, once you have developed the bodhicitta, you can you are worthy to be called lama or so forth.
대체 아니 라바도 샤추게 생이 견에서 샤추 생이 견에는 겨와 추추지 주어이나 근데 저거 타야 받아 세타맹이 지어서는 근데 가서 센지게 제세대 셔로 아니 센지게 제세게 주소나 네 자토셀 주생에 되게 배 샤추생 배자로.
So now here, moreover, that once by developing the bodhicitta, even if you engage in a very minor meritorious deeds or meritorious actions, the result of this meritorious action will become inexhaustible. It become infinite. Just like we have saying in the Guide to the Bodhisattva of Life, for like the supreme substance of the alchemist, right? Alchemist, it takes the impure form of human flesh and make it to the peerless body of the Buddha. Such as the bodhicitta, we should grasp it firmly.
샤추게 센질을 되게 가사제나 선제연 요콜 지샤의 처벌을 소바 피소는 선나사서게 신초도 줘봐대로 너가서 선나 신초세데 선나 신이 초도 줘봐대 랑게 저제 자이 라마레 소와나 이 샤추 센질을 내바질라이네 니걸로 소바 제소나 선나 사고로 인자는 선나 신이 초대소도 근데 지대기 델레타지 제사기 나쪽에 다다 가서 잡을린데 센터에 지대 요소 줘봐 살았대네 다 저번 제거에 초기에는 참조된도로 대당 이게 다 개율로도 요소 줘봐대 샤추 센데 얘네 사기 답을해서도
So this cultivation of bodhicitta, once, in other words, once you have cultivated the bodhicitta, developed this bodhicitta in one's stream of, in one's continuum, one will become the field of mirrors. In other words, whoever pay respects and beseech and making offerings and so forth, will accumulate tremendous amount of mirrors. It is therefore bodhisattvas are said to be the field of mirrors. And just like we as the human beings or the sentient beings rely upon our earth, place where we live, and we cultivate our land, and we plant seeds and received abundance of harvests by planting a seed. Similarly, once you're able to plant the bodhicitta within oneself, one will be able to bear the fruits, abundant fruits of the mirrors.
대체 뒤져가 저다 되게 파다 저와서 이제 저다 될 배자고 미시면 저다 미시면도 아주 도저도 베셔라 아니 마데 배자 아니 상주선을 저다 파다 배자고로 와 근데 상제게 살아야 제 가서 로에기 겨와되게 상제 살은 로에기 저기 원정인데 상주선으로 와 예전에 상주선데 근데 제세 제기 아니 파다 오지 고안에는 저기도 와
So here, therefore, we say that thus you are like a father to all beings. Why is someone who developed bodhisattva is said to be like a father to all beings? It's because we have a saying that the two aspects, one of the wisdom aspect and then the two paths, in other words, which enables one to gain the state of enlightenment. Out of two, the wisdom aspect and, in other words, wisdom aspect and the method aspects. Method aspects will become actual cause for cultivating complete state of enlightenment. Thus, it is called the father of all beings.
대체 되게 다당가서 신당바 줘봐 자주 사람들 제소나 아니 젠다 문다이 아니 신 초도 줘봐 아니 라마도 먼저 봐야 생이 되게 사제 되지 다 사제님 봐도 녀바 메비고네 아니 선앙용스 제바 생지도 젠지 너 자주 사람들 되나 아니 젠지 녀바 메시비고나 손바 마세 아니 선앙고는 컴퓨터 로고를 세대니 사제님 봐더라도
So therefore it says, once you have developed the bodhicitta within oneself, then it says one can surpass all the great beings. In other words, other beings. You become a superior and highest of all beings. It is by means of cultivating such a bodhicitta, therefore one will become a source of giving rise to all those merits and virtue, not only for oneself but also for the other beings as well.
대체 되게 로이다 니바네 제 콜로지제 소에 소마 이제 따도 소에 니가 아래 니로간세 노상 바메바 줘바 나 네지 나 메마예비 뇨마네바 나제 제메네바 오 소도 도보데 제주 네바 투고 말해 소리
Niveaus, det var det varmt.
ja men det was zemeneba was
Okay, let's read the text now. The second benefit, being fully endowed with the protected merit, is as follows. As you are always protected by guidance that are twice as numerous as those of universal monarch, you cannot be harmed by yakshas or local spirits when you are sleeping, drunk, or careless.
대체 그저 맞아 내지 가서 또 콜로지 고생에 송에들라 아니 다 내지 나도 도저 동이 송거를 생에들 그런 배선을 여서와 또 동차지 송거를 생에 내지 나도 도저 생 인자네 상추기 산랑질라 때서나 내진 라도 도질레 송베기 동차 달로라 거래 송에 가제 가쇼종이 하나지 뒤다도 송그레세 된다데도 상추 산랑질라
So here now, if you are once you have developed this a precious mind or awakening mind or the bodhicitta or the mind of enlightenment, you will not be harmed by Nujin, which is a harm giver, which is in Sanskrit is a yakshas, which literally means the harm givers will not be harmed. You will not be able to harm by the harm givers or the yakshas or a local spirits. You will be protected by the white-sided, spirits, white-sided spirits at all time, regardless of where you are. You will be protected, and you will not be nobody. There's not a powerful, such spirits that can bring harm upon yourself.
송비 뒤set을 러도 뒤징한서 지 샤주기 세다 냠바다 샤주세 간지미 걸어 소바마세 지 샤주세 질레디미 가사데 니코바 타나 지 용바스를 차나 근데 밤에 봐 간지질레 니비 거이나요 대다기 송우를 러도 근데 송바 마세 아니 뇌제도 뭐마에 뉴만데 바세데 가서기 뒤지 로브도 용바도 뉴만데 바생에 되지다 뒤지 되게 달라 아니 뉴만데 바세 그래 아니 로브 용에 달라 로브와도 뉴만데 바 가제 되게 아니 뭐마에 바도서 네바시에 두고 말이 가슈종한테서 뒤다도 송거를 러도 뒤set을 거 줘나요.
So once you have generated the bodhicitta or developed bodhicitta, you will be protected at all time. Whether you are meditating bodhicitta or you're not, you're out of your sessions of meditations and so forth. You will be always protected. As long as you have, as long as this the spirit of enlightenment is present in your stream of being. So you will not be harmed. And you will not be harmed by even the local spirits or the spirits that are primordially existence. In other words, it is native spirits. In other words, Nyungmar Nepa in Tibetan, which means native spirits that has been there for eons. There are some spirits that have been in one particular place for eons, and they become what we call as a owner of land. So those will not be able to bring any harm upon you. In fact, all those white-sided deities, local spirits, and so forth will protect you and so on. Even when one is sleeping or drunk or become careless, you will not be harmed. That's all. Take a 10 minutes break. That's all.
야, 당연히 로그인 당연히 마스 가지 마스 조셔 좀도 배 제보 수도 나 반대 로그다 상하다 링하지 상하다 링하지 치 이하다 녀바다 내고바 쇼셔바 신제제 라도 두바 마두바나 장 디라도 오네 두바잖아 두바 따제메 데네 쇼알라 소비 렌소장 센제 때나 졸라와 템베 튜모기 모두 두발랑 데여나 요아오 손도
So let's read through the text. Secret mantra and knowledge mantras that can cure epidemic injuries and infections, but are not effective in the hands of living beings. become affected when someone with a stable generation of spirit of enlightenment uses them. So they mention the mantras that do work when they're used by living beings. The Bodhisattva's level teaches that when your spirit of enlightenment is stable, you also easily accomplish the collections of the effect, collections of actions, pacifying and so forth. So if you have this, you also quickly accomplish ordinary ordinary spiritual enlightenments.
제단에다 가서 상하 세소나 제단에다 대 이쪽에서 거라 지하 세소나 또 상하 라지를 두비든지 아니 시기토는 네바타바로 지라 아니 지하세는 로도 제단에나 아니 지하 이거는 지하 저선지 다 도사네시나 지 하바트르기 네바토에 시트에들 지하세로도 얘나 상추선 질레니베 칸사기 아니 상하의 지하 가지 진주나야 아니 샤바다 세베케네 하네 마도 베테 로바트르 베 텐다치에 요마로.
So here the secret mantra and the knowledge mantra, this two has a different meaning. So secret mantra normally sangha, which literally means to protect one's mind, yikapa, which is protect one's mind. Then ringa, which is translated in English here as the knowledge mantra. The knowledge mantra is a mantra that can recite it, and then sometimes it can be harmful to other beings. And there are beings who can do some kind of harm and rituals which become harmful for other beings. So therefore it says, once you have developed such a precious bodhicitta within oneself, and such harmful mantras and knowledge mantras will not be able to harm oneself. It will not inflict any harm upon oneself if the bodhicitta is generated within oneself.
되게 된다 저거데 가르고는 시제 온다게 렌소 주발에 네바 템바치로 고거스 손도와 마소 레시세데 쇼와다 제바 온 잡으세요라 아니 시제게 렌소 주발에 상추 세요 아니나 아니 렌소 되게 네 제부터 템 하와요 저 손도와.
So then also it says ants and beings become effective when someone with the stable generations of spirit of enlightenment use. They mentioned that, so it says, when the spirit of enlightenment is stable, you also easily accomplish the collections of the actions, specifying and so forth, right? So when you when the spirit of enlightenment is present within one's continuum, it says it will be far more easier for one to accomplish one's practice of 4 actions, what we call this leishi, which is 4 actions: pacifying, peaceful actions, and actions of the increasing actions of the power, and wrathful actions. All of those actions, or if one engages in such a practice of those 4 actions, can be fruitful very easily. The fruit of these 4 actions will be very swift.
맞은 저도 저 정으로 제 가세요. 그제 나들 소소아. 근데 가 저기지 예당 카드 예 예당的感觉예당 소마들 이 잡으기를 예하듯이 지 카도 미디에서 지 상주선 상도도는 현나서 간대나 상에 천나 용도 소다. 장자 되게 천나데 용무시어 되는 말로 좋아데 배데 용에 맞지로와. 예전에 맞저기 카다 치와치 생에서 이 뭐쳐 가르레서나 아니 강을 넘어대서 되게 신전하고 소된지 개체마셔와체. 아니 지 가서 상하 계셔나 탐에비 당신라 녀보된도 야나 아니 다지 말이 봐도 됐을 녀보된도기 아니 지 잡힌 넘어대데 아니 녀모도서기 카텔라 잡힌 넘어대버지마도 시기 자진 리비단달라 잡힌 넘어대버지 사원년도 거짓말도 와 대고나 되게 잡힌 넘어대마다 상추생이 지션에 상하이 랑 도바랑지를 쟁행지마도 용사코로요 말와.
So here now I would like to mention, as His Holiness once, sometimes His Holiness, half jokingly mentions about the terrifying wrathful looking deities. If you look at without having a proper understanding of the feature, why those kind of features is appeared in such enlightened beings, then we suddenly have a question that how come is someone who is enlightened, whose mind is actually moistured by those compassion and bodhisattvas and so forth, and why they are so wrathful, why they appear as such a wrathful and terrifying, features. So now here, when it comes to such, this is the kind of question that we may ask ourselves. It can be happen to us when we look at those, the features, the wrathful forms of those deities. It is possible for we to also have some kind of doubt why this is so. Here now, it is very, very important for us to understand when we're seeing those appearance, the wrathful appearance. It is not wrathful towards an external phenomena such as person or individual and so on and so forth. But rather, the very purpose of this wrathful appearance is to really to overcome true ordinariness. In other words, ordinary clinging and ordinary, grasping. So particularly when the purpose of engaging the practice of the sacred Mantrayana, the main focus of practice of sacred Mantrayana is to overcome Tame Binangjen, which means the ordinary clinging and ordinary grasping. So, and including, Dazin Marikwa, which is the ignorance or grasping of self, and now delusions. This is towards whom that their the wrathful appearances are. The purpose of having this wrathful experience to eradicate those negative thoughts and emotions, and not towards someone whom you dislike. We cannot define as a one individual, a person to whom that wrathful expressions are expressed.
Tadiki Koya Malaya, Shanchu Saint Rangila, Ben Shawata Java in Chore, and Trapilia Katichin and Dugure, Tapu saying it, Shana Sabu and the Reolana, and the Quate Tata Gudua, Matuqua, Doshola Lemacho Mari, Shanchu Saint and Shamba the Zirangeroa. The Trapilia Sasona, Takaji Choziba, the Novatema Teroa. To say Gendayum mature in the Remadua.
So here it is important to understand, the reason and the purpose of the wrathful appearances of those deities, because such a deities who have cultivated a bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is a nature of sense of caring and sense of loving and sense of caring and compassion towards other beings, not really wrathful towards others. So therefore, it is very, very important. What is the purpose of having such an appearance, terrifying, looking appearance of those deities?
That Timo you go to Dubalayan, David, and you are towards them. That choking go to any Sonju, Sonju Kohan, Sonju Doji Chan, Kohan Tabala, Shanchu, say you're not Dula Mase, and that is Shana Timo and go to Santa Dubalayan, Shanchu, say you're not Dula Sondo.
So all those, not only those, four actions, as we mentioned earlier, collections of the four actions, specifying and so forth. So if you have this also quickly accomplished ordinary spiritual attainment, it says ordinary spiritual attainment. That is what it is in, translated in English. But the tumoi, which means the common attainments, in other words, with the development of bodhicitta, if one engages in practice, not only that it enables one to accomplish the four actions, but also will enables one to swiftly accomplish the common attainments.
You send on Jula, Rangila, Shiva, the Jima, the Duki Shanju send the Debbie Kansa, the near Khan, the Nesona, any Jipala Soba Jongoma essay, and you might see the Daniel.
And also it says, not only the building bodhicitta, the developing bodhicitta, but also it enables to benefit all other beings, can be protected all beings wherever you go, wherever the place that you are present, and that surrounding place is actually protected and become free from fear.
Teach. Tagalogida. Ne kana neba deyang. Jiba dan jiba jowa dan megewa dan. Mama ye neba majowa dan mijo shin. Jowa dan showa jero. Sepu yo deyang neba nyon shin. Rangshin je ne meba dan. Neba shona yu rinbo rabu mindeba dan. Chö dan so. Senje je dan juba na. Lü mingen shin, jenge batang, sen nyang ba menjuro. Shang sen jiri la nyaba ne, rangshin jijang, ne ngene nyongwa yen la, sen je na ne, lü dan sen je ne ngene, shindu chungwa joro. Zoba dan, ya, joro, tiba di je lo rachita.
Wherever you are staying, okay, let's read through the text, okay? Wherever you are, arise no fear, no cause of fear, no famine, and no harm from non-humans, and you will kill those that have already happened. And also after that, you will have a little trouble, and you will be naturally healthy in your next life. Even if some harm does arise, it will not last long or be severe. Sorry. And when you engage in the welfare of living beings, giving teachings and etc., your body will not feel tired, and you will not be forgetful, nor will your mind degenerate. If you're one if you're one who abides in the bodhisattva's lineage, you naturally have a few dysfunctional tendencies. Once you have developed the spirit of enlightenment, the dysfunctional tendencies of your mind and the body are extremely slight.
Jero, tell me, say, jogo da sebodo. Zöba teba tang, dembe tsu nöba sheba zöjin, pa nöba me sheba, jenji jenla nöba sheba, tonang shibde megawa tang, chowa tang, chado tang, yo tang, choba so, nang jang, renga zanyang jeshin, jenang shu mirala rindu, mineba nyudu, jewan joro. Nyeso jekashin, jenang nyudu tawa tang. 대양 동해 충화다 대진 셰베 코알라 신도 조화다 세제 대다랑 진지 제오 송도
You're patient, you are patient and gentle, says, right? So that if someone harms you, you bear it and do not harm in return. If you see others hurting each other, you are very displeased. You seldom give rise to anger, jealousy, and deceitfulness, and concealments and the like. If these two arise, they are not intense, do not last long, and quickly disappears. And it is difficult for you to be reborn in miserable realms. Even if you are born there, you will quickly get free. Even while there, your suffering will be slight, and because of it, you will be free. You will be very disenchanted with secular existence and generate compassion for the beings there. The merit of for the beings there. The merit of the spirit of enlightenment, where you
니지 저거 대체 그래서 니지 니지 세제 받아 그래서 인자네 제가 가서 데로 상추기 세대 이랑질로 예 친절라 제 간사 제제 지 노트들 가세 토나 그 지지 정원도 로고 말 콘트 정원도 로고 말이 그 세제되니 말이 비정원도 손에 니 샤와때도 뉴모 정원도 손에 세제대 라오메 바티 로고 통인데 콜 콘트 제 고고코로요 말이 지지 제 유주마도 메도아
luce pona tadi nge ya te si di che sun para yang ni su me chas
그 예선의 경기도 지제나 안조를 녀타이나 지제기도 표제 녀타이나 단지 동북고추도 비다 차소야 갈래갈 도드스
ni ye da rumche dan de sun gyo dan de sunje dan de and de sambe shoro ba sambe de kyone sebe ko ma so kin kanga so la di
그래서 로드도 때 녀타의 경기들 규조지 땅에 때데래샤 데리등 애들 join 사마르게
아 de kyone mo chas
다야부 차서요
아니
다야부 코드
고문들 미치 서 시대
아 데리등
이 폰 넘버 정말
얘기도 join 못다
그 칼레스 디 폰 넘버 그냥 당이 먹는 양 몰라 미치
야야
걔들 되게 럽다
로로 따다
cancer that 세부 시도
단지 동북 선거주도 양 세고 쉬우 차서 다다 반상잡이 거라 양도 버절 추수
이제 권한돼
더가라에 나다 대마서 진도 고문도서는 계속 뭐 먼저도 줘요 개념 폰을 따지자다
이제 권한돼
다 고도 다 야보고도
당에 대 폰드나 되게 당시 때 폰이야서 다시 컴퓨터를 같이 하는 전기 쉬고 고게
도와줄 지잖아 가서 자가 로타도 도와체네 티도 전지제 디소 지제도
오는데 제대로 동아에 음식이 숨이 견이하고 막은 내 냐에 되게 숨이하고 막고도 되게
다이다게
나서는 지나서
당가서 되는서 상추세 라지를 되게 이 강사지 이 현이 되게 노래서 봐 강통바데 아니 상추세 질을 되게 강사데 이 세제의 통인데 세제의 영어지 영어도 손에 아니 샤워기 받지는 주바데 통인데 진지마도 컨트롤을 소바지는 제가 말와
when you are able to develop bodhicitta even when you see someone who is engaging in inappropriate actions, such as actions of harming oneself and that of harming other beings, you will not generate anger, but rather you will have compassion. You will generate compassion towards such person.
라바데 상추세 질을 되게 강사 아니 예소의教练바 여러 예소의教练나요 유를 보면은 아니 로모신의 예소도 로신녀도 타와시세데 아니 유를 뭐 좀 먹고 왔지 예소도 로야네 야 조바야 타용에 들어도
Such individual who have developed bodhicitta even for take a rebirth in lower realms, it will not it will not have very long. It's just a brief taking rebirth in the lower realm is a very brief. It will free, immediately as soon as he or she is born in the lower realms with the generation of bodhicitta.
Labada mato temba de jichi de kaza de any kar jinja ranji la cheba de ni shita de de sana jinji chewa se de ne nyawa la cheji be bala ni sa je ge dong ya to ne jinji la pe ba de ro yu hu do a so yu za de ta de de jinji la ba de gi chen she de jinji che go re de de ni sa ro.
So we also find in that in certain texts about the Buddha's the previous lifetimes, Buddha Shakyamuni's previous lifetimes biographies, that you will find the Buddha once have taken rebirth in the hell realms and generated a great compassion in hell realms while generating compassion towards his colleague who is unable to drag the on chariots. So having a great compassion, extended great compassion towards his colleague, and said to be generated a great compassion in the hells, the state in the hell realm. Sorry.
Dona shachu ge sen ranji la de be kansa ye aso ma so rodu je so ka ti na ani trashi ba che da ani dhyan du ba so de chong chong re do rani ma se de rang ye sa ge ne ka la chi pi so so ba ma je yo me do ko ka sa na ko ka la se wa da shambi ranji de shu ji ja rani shu de shu ji ja sa da je ba yi ko le ne bo che se kansa chi cha ba ro 대체도 그 샤와 가는 데 주소나 지 쓰나 입에 야 르르지 뭐에서로.
So regardless of where such individual with the individual who is with the development of the bodhicitta, regardless of where he or she travels or go, will never be harmed or will not become everything that will become auspicious and a positive and fruitful. So not only that, but also by means of one's merits and the cultivation of this bodhicitta, will able to benefit in your surroundings, benefits beings who are in your surroundings, and also will be praised by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions.
다나 가서게 되게 샤추게 sen ranji le chema ta de sat number 2 de yo wa se de ni shuje sanje no je ni ji gai ye me to wa se de ye pesa no do 샤추게 sen ranji de na ba ji zane alo de ji jo ge sa ta kansa ran ta ga so tame ba ki thong ma re ma do ha le ji re do.
So it's really, really inconceivable benefits when you generate the bodhicitta. By means of, it is a sign of generating bodhicitta. At the moment that you have generated bodhicitta, it says that even the world trembles, and the infinite and numerous Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions will praise oneself.
Oh,
and so we as ordinary beings, we are unable to sense that. We are unable to know the sign of someone who is generating bodhicitta. But even extraordinary beings and the superior beings, they're able to sense that someone who generates bodhicitta.
다시 오늘 텔레 페야 가려서 내가 요즘 디타는 페야래도 상추 세지 쓰나 주제도 주나 나카 양 미쇼와당 상제이 상생이 쳐봐야 말에 차장도 메초바네 베진지 슈바래 상추 세지 쓰나가 게데 텔라 게데 주치나 나키 칸에 끼건데 데네데 라반저 강기 셴미 장내지 상제 나네 그 상제 신나 매 강기 르첸다게 끼건데 제된 거라 피와에 강게 태모 자치데 상추되네 센뒤나 쳐바되네 쳐바파 델라타네 마치소 제 셰소 송도 펜
Let's read through the text. If the of the spirit of enlightenment were to take form, it would not even fit into the sky, nor does the merits of making material offerings to the Buddhas equal even a mere portion of it. The questions of the householder Viradatta Sutra, the name of the sutra, it states, if whatever merit there is in the spirit of enlightenment had form, it would fill the entire vault of the sky and then exceed it. Were someone to fill the Buddha's realms with jewels as numerous as the grains of the sand of the Ganges, river Ganges, and offer this to the protectors of the world, far superior is the merit in the offerings of the one who joining his or her hands reverently generates the spirit of enlightenment. There is no limit to the merit in this.
tel mi se de ke jogo ke do shangchu sen ge pyan de re se ji ji da de no na ni shangchu sen de nge pa de ka re che de go go re shangchu sen de ge che bo ka re se na ni jo de da la me nga ge song ji sen na jin de ji ko la re de she no de ke so mo ge da ge bo lo go yin da ko chen bi do ji de la ko ze ne sa che da she na nyu zo bi shangchu to nya de gong ba na 구조 총왕 신에 쳐와 나라 뉴도 창제와 되베 강라 러버 샤시 주바나 상추지 산라 러버 샤오 셰바당 게도라이 땡게 나칼라 베메 게바 시라 점바시게 지방 레 카타 제바 셈베 상추지 산라 투게 쳐와 소게에서 대다나스 대바도 질로래 됐다.
So this is how important it is for us to generate bodhicitta. Here we continue reading the text. Importance of generating bodhicitta. While the great elder was circumambulating the Vajra state in Bodh Gaya, he thought, how can I obtain full enlightenment quickly? Thereupon, he had a vision. He has a vision where when the smallest statue stood up and asked the larger statues, what should those who wish to quickly attain Buddhahood train in? And the larger ones replied, they should train in the spirit of enlightenment. Also, the sky above the main temple, a young woman asked the question to an older woman, and Adisha heard the same answers as before. Therefore, it is said he become more certain about the spirit of enlightenment.
tel de she message jogo ke do ji she da ji ji song so se da ji da de ju ro da 조조 바디아데 게 상추센 토당게 트드제네 라바스네 바다 상추센게 다바시사 조데 다 라레노 이 투모 많이 바기 가르사 제시지로와 야, 또 피치대 저기도 써도 어때지? 다마서 데로 안에 가실로나 이제 뒤손도 산제 주바나 싫어지 바로도 심발라라 아니 조베 산제 상주되바나 대다되는 시신라 로바 샤워세데 아니 맞죠 시신이 도노라 아니 뭐데 돈이 지르 바테레도 다 베데 것도 지르 바치 제유데 아니 상 뒤손도 산제 주바나 조베 산제 고판라 로고에나 아니 상주지 산을 보체라 하셔세데 아니 베데 것도 지르 바 지나가서 종이 시신지 종이 뭐때 돈이 지르바다 베데 것도 지르면 제시 저유데 아니 돈이 도베 가서 셔 뒤손도 산제 주바나 돈이 도베 셔라 하고바나이 아니 뒤손도 산제 주바나 조베 상주지 산제 되고야나 아니 가서 상주선을 하셔서 돼 베데기 제시 저도 되려도 그래서 그것도 제기
So as we are all familiar with the Prajnaparamita Sutra, where it has stated very clearly all those great enlightened beings of the three times have gained the state of enlightenment by relying upon the Prajnaparamita, right? Prajaparameter, which is referring to the emptiness, perfecting one's understanding of emptiness. By relying upon such a perfection, one will gain the state of enlightenment, as all those great beings who have gained the state of enlightenment, the three times of the great beings of the three times who have gained the state of enlightenment. This is what we call the explicit teachings of this Prajaparameter Sutras. However, the implicit teachings of the Prajaparameter Sutra is the stages of the path, such as path of the bodhicitta and compassion and so on and so forth. It's implicit teachings of the Prajaparameter, where it's stated that just as the great beings, the enlightened beings of the three times, great enlightened beings of the three times have gained the state of enlightenment, relying upon the Prajaparameter Sutra. Similarly, one must rely upon that upon the implicit teachings of the stages of the path to gain the state of enlightenment.
Tanda yung de somba na ge ne Benjamin George bo ne cho doji de la kora pepe kola ne tula de yu gomba na ne de ye ji do zhen ye chu de ye da ma so ne zilan de chong be ye re do ta da de son de.
So we have So we have gone through this is just because it's very clear that how the great elder, referring to the Atisha, went to Atisha was circumambulating the Buddha, the stupa, Buddha stupa, where he had these visions of questioning and question and answers of how swift one can gain the state of enlightenment. And it has an answer very clearly that it's by means of generating bodhicitta. It is through generation of bodhicitta one will be able to gain the state of enlightenment swiftly. So therefore, what it really indicates here is now it clearly indicates that if one really have a genuine wish to gain the state of enlightenment, there's no other means, other than generation of bodhicitta.
Jesse no shoba lobo chela kui ten tamba ne shanchu ji sense sheba shala de gambala joshu jepe to tane kombe chu tan toba ta shade ya de me ba de me de shui chenro ji che chawa shade la na la sheba na la sheba na deni changjewi to tamba jawa seje zibi shoro deke tanya shunjule keba toma rogun zebayi tuan nanji deni pemba zi sheso sodo.
Let's read through the text here again. Accordingly, understand that the spirit of enlightenment comprises the key points of all the Mahayana's personal instructions. Is a great treasure of all spiritual attainment. Is a feature that distinguishes the Mahayana from the Hinayana, and is the excellent basis that spurs you to undertake greatly greatly effective it. Act like a thirsty person hearing a talk of water. For when the conquerors and their children use marvelous wisdom to examine the path in great detail for many eons, they saw just this to be the excellent method for becoming a Buddha, as engaging in the bodhisattva states. Reflecting for many eons, the masters of the sage saw this alone to be beneficial.
가르사 상추 쪽에 산에 지지네 선제당제 다게 저한테 상추 상추 영어셔버 저세리 선제당제 상추기 산에 선제당제 대화긴 저라베 아니 상추 산에 아니 유도원이 자세지 쇼발로 호치바 생에데 아니 상추 산에 상추 산에 아니 자세 상추를 쇼발로 호에게 규마 차고 송도와 규마 당해로.
So this is it is bodhicitta is the one that encourages oneself to further achievement or further progression towards state of enlightenment as well as the other beings. It is therefore in the verse receiving the precept, the verse of the bodhisattvas, where it is stated, having generated the supreme bodhicitta, I invite all beings as my guest. So, in other words, once you have generated this bodhicitta, supreme bodhicitta within oneself, you invite all beings as a guest to generate bodhicitta, and inviting them to the state where you can gain the state, you can gain the complete enlightenment. It's just like one should be delighted as a person who is so thirsty and is looking desperately for the water, and if such individual just by hearing the talk of water will become so delighted.
배대신 다 가서게 런니를 신주 제거 말이마도 가서 녀모게 차도데 진지게 차도니게 세는 뭐네 전에잖아 지 파쇼도 버지 대이 편도 버지 두세나 뭐네 단지기 추이 땅토바나 지 가서 제거비 되려래요와 다 상추세다 돈이도 베셔라데 가서 진지게 차도세비 아니 동해데 세게 배데 두다스나 코나 좋아 쉬지 해고비 소리지래다 다 가서 대이 장원도 손데 진을 해도고도
So we should be in this. Should be like such an individual. Just by hearing the name of the talk of water, one should be so delighted that one is so thirsty, right? Because similarly, when we understand that if we are able to understand that we are really tormented by this delusions or the mental or afflictions, including self-cherishing and self-grasping, if you have this understanding, at the moment that you hear of the remedy, which will dispel those sufferings of the delusion and suffering of self-cherishing and self-grasping, you will be so delighted to be able to. You'll be so delighted that you wanted to be free yourself from such sufferings. However, it's not so. Although that we keep hearing those words again and again, but we're still not being so enthusiastic towards achievement of such, spiritual realizations, such as bodhicitta and so forth.
예전에 가서게 상추 생생에 되고네 되게 편쪽이 되지 임바 되니라 쪼아편에 아니 될래 주고 그래서 대 편쪽이 되서 임바 가르르서서나 아니 다다시험 예 산제 동의 산제 장면 받지 아니 개바 자차 먹을 깔래 정요디 아니 상추 생에 편 야와지 상추 생에 라면 받지 니 지네 아니 가서 다 지네 손상죠 되래 아니 다 되니라 가서 가사라니 칼로네 가보잖아요. 대니를 조합해는 양례체쇼 소화 되랬다. 대단한 도디나.
So therefore, it is what is in this particular paragraph it's emphasized is it's emphasizes strongly towards oneself to generate enthusiasm towards achievement of bodhicitta, because this bodhicitta, the practice of bodhicitta, a generation of bodhicitta, is said to be the mental gidduji, which means the nectar of the supreme medicine, nectar of supreme medicines. Because why it is nectar of supreme medicine? It is said so by all the great beings, that teachers and the Buddhas who have, the great beings who have gained the state of enlightenment, they have stated time and again by saying that there's no other means superior than the generation of bodhicitta. So therefore, we must look inward and to examine ourselves and try to think how precious it is and how important it is for us to generate bodhicitta.
Laba de Shenjula, Tancho Oma Subala, Maji Junga Chumata Soera. And G. Penangasoki Tanda Zambele de la Sendere, Kaji Chuja Pomba Jetu, Yonsu to be Nimbo to do the Mando of the Karata Sana, Jimbo over there, and he shall choose Soera.
So then also we find in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by the Shantideva, where it stated that by churning milk, we get a butter out of it, right? Similarly, by engaging in the practice and the teachings of the great teachings of the Dharma of 84,000 hips of the teachings, if we were to essentialize the teachings, and if we were to ask ourselves which is the essence of the teachings of the 84,000 hips of the Dharma, is the generation of bodhicitta, or the great compassion.
Taji Jona Jachamba Somba, Chico Yapa, Sosoki Jawachen, Karana, Sosola, Shivana Ye, Ranila, Ranching, Nasa, dancing Nasa, do the Midu, Shijuera, Ranching and Cadicula Segudo, dancing Cadicula Segudo. And then Ranching the dancing Soso Nebayena on the telepay painting, because the telepay made the Cadidu Shijuche. And then the tricky painter line, that Susoki Loy put to Mena, and then Tajisuana, and then Lave Sombatan. And then Jonas Somba Tedala, and then Hanjana, and then Yansu knew it, the Cabalo Soba Conditene, and then Jenny Yari Brother, and then Maripi me but the Sene, and then Jachan Dogate Chiroa. To Super Soso Yanela Janamato, Moachilla, Meshi Chipola Tabi, Caboroa.
So now, we should not leave such teachings mere, those precious teachings in the text itself. We should not live in there. What we have to do here is now, we need to, focus inward and to see whether you are suffering from the sickness of jejin, cherishing mind, and self-grasping. If you know that you are you are suffering from a sickness of self-cherishing, self-grasping, and what is the medicine to cure that, right? You have to look at yourself. If you are unable to, understand the medicine which becomes a remedy for this negative, this grasping at self and self-cherishing mind, as we mentioned earlier, one should then rely upon the teacher's teachings and rely upon the precious text, the authentic text. So, with this kind of efforts, one will then be able to, overcome one's darkness of ignorance. This can only be done on the basis of practicing and experiencing it.
Senji land to the Casapes, Tachama the Deja as a consumption. And it answer to one the Monache.
So now let's do the dedication.
The Monache. What the color Hogore, Mona the Kare Mona Jogore Sala, and what the Masukiri, Zendasua, Zane, Mason, who is Zechi, dead and should just 이제 토마 툭 제바 근데 봐도 소사바 타망가 봐 산제반 나지지 아니 녜게 데리사비 주데 데라 데다 지바용아 쇼스네 양화체 아니 대용비 된다라 아니 쇼지 산제 나제 아니 나라 아니 신라도로지 로보나로지 세데 아니 몰라니가 자그래 네 라바데 샹추 살라미바 조체쇼 그바데 제잖아 아니 주미 바세데 로에데 베케체모로아.
So let's do our dedications. Our dedication. So we have something that we can dedicate, right? There's something that we can dedicate. It's a ngöidze in Tibetan, which means the substances of that is to be dedicated. So what is the substance that is to be dedicated is the teachings of our 2 hours of our teachings, the teachings that we have received, can be the substances that can be dedicated. How do we dedicate this? Is to think about that all those the beings, the enlightened beings of 3 times have generated in the beginning, generated by the spirit of enlightenment, and the middle have engaged in the actions of accumulating merits, and then having accumulated the merits, and finally they gain the state of enlightenment. And may I too follow their footsteps to gain the state of enlightenment. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions to bless me to be able to do this.
Kada yamba kanshi sabade lobe mare kedon jowana nare jaye obo dajoji yama sebe sero kedo yang jambe yanje sebe jezone debe remba kyosan lanje cho nene jo rangi jeje dobe lanje shudo tse changye tauge je zhuoye ye je miwa se xe jaye denpa yu rin zin ju ji denpa rin qin chu ge ma jo ba qiao jiang nyang pa ju bi shu de ne nie je qian bu yi rao ju ba yi pi di de de se wa xie bo shu se jin jia yu mi zhuo chen de le le zhuo shang zhuo lang zhe ren bei zhang ta de lang zhe yi lang bie de xin jia yuan zi bo ren de zhong jiu ji lang zang zhu bi tian qin zhu xie ji ye jin si ji me dang me mi gun se ro gun do jia yuan ma ba yi na da lang dong zhe wa ma zhe ji刚才天把秋了去世纪，最近住了怎么的月子，多点那就大都出席纪，这些将是说有就节。在那边过次绕点纪，那个真的说就结果当，路上点别针。萨索吉，若也面色大多年久吉，刚热热月过于心啊， 偏东的我马的九月呢，现日在我天在叫作业，小别身体八度点九节，江边八月接到千八道，越多丈夫天阳天见天，得到根就就是道路是，给我得到堂姐绕多我的。我西边叫我当姐姐，我刚了就多刚把的，老爷给月找我都跟讲，从不事事绕多我姐。
Thank you. Thank you.
多钱呢？那就年年多钱。